A very warm welcome, dear participants, to this third webinar on Sargassum. This is a joint effort between the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, and our colleagues at IOC UNESCO. This webinar is a third in a series of webinars. The first one was a general overview, and the second one, which was approximately 2 months ago on July 21st, focused on the science of Sargassum. Today, we are focusing on West Africa and the challenges of Sargassum and some of the responses and collaboration. And we have a very interesting group of panelists with us today. We have structured the webinar today on 3 parts. The first part focuses on the general overview of the Abidjan Convention, and within that, a regional framework for West Africa on Sargassum. The second part focuses on updates from the countries. And the third part looks at interactive discussions. So you will have a chance to send in your questions, and the panelists will have a chance to respond to these questions. You have the option on the chat box to send these questions. I forgot to give a quick introduction to myself. My name is Mahesh Pradhan. I'm with the United Nations Environment Program, and I'm coordinating our global partnership on nutrient management within the framework of the GPA, the Global Program of Action for the Protection of the Marine Environment from Land-Based Activities. So to set us off, we have a few opening remarks, and from the coordinator of the GPA, let me invite Habib to share a few opening thoughts. Habib, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Mahesh, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, wherever you are. As Mahesh said, my name is Habib El Abr, and I'm the coordinator of the GPA, the Global Program of Action for the Protection of the Marine Environment from Land-Based Activities. I would like to welcome all of you to the third virtual.
Now I can hear them.
Okay. And I hope that you are all keeping safe during this challenging COVID-19 time. I'm also excited to see how momentum is building up on this topic of Sargassum, especially with the large number of attendees. We had over 300 in the last 2 webinars. Let me start by showing my appreciation to the Abidjan Convention team, my colleague Abu, West Africa representatives for their continuous support in addressing the Sargassum seaweed invasions on their coastlines since its invasion in 2011. I would also like to show my appreciation to the colleagues at IOC UNESCO for co-organizing this webinar as we move towards the African Science Meeting on Sargassum. First, the role of the GPA in protection of the marine environment from land-based activities focuses around 3 key partnerships: the Marine Litter Plastic Partnership, the Wastewater, and the Nutrients Partnership. So the global global partnership on the nutrients management is one of these 3 GPA partnerships, which focuses on the role of nutrients, while also serving as the focal point for the UNEA 4 resolution on sustainable nitrogen management. As you well know, the Sargassum is not just a national issue, but a regional and global issue that should be addressed collectively and in a coordinated manner. The awe of the Sargassum invasion has prompted reaction from many experts into desperate search for understanding and possible solutions to this enigma. I ask all those who have their mic open to mute themselves, because we are hearing disturbance. Colleagues, please unmute all your mics. I'm still hearing the disturbance.
Yeah, I think Kofi Komoy, can you please mute your mic? Thank you.
Okay. It's against this backdrop that the Abidjan Convention Secretariat has mobilized and led regional efforts to combat this plague of invasive species on coastal areas in West Africa region. The invasive species strategy, the 3-year strategic implementation plan, was developed by 9 West African countries under the Abidjan Convention in close collaboration with the UNEP GPA to address the challenges caused by invasive species. Of course, we will hear more on this from our Abidjan Convention colleagues, which will be complemented by national case studies highlighting the challenges, responses, and collaboration across West Africa. The Sargassum impacts are widely experienced across the Atlantic, in the Caribbean as well, with the Sargassum biomass now comprising of over 20 million metric tons in forming a recurring Great Atlantic Sargassum belt, highlighting how interconnected the 2 regions are on this issue. The Sargassum invasion is also closely linked to many of the Sustainable Development Goals, such as SDG 6, the clean water and sanitation, and SDG 14, life below water, among others. At UNEP, the preparations are currently underway for the 5th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly, UNEA, which is scheduled to be held in February 2021. Hopefully, we are still in a discussion at the CPR level in Nairobi to see how this session will be organized, whether online visually or whether it will be postponed or not. Several countries have expressed interest on a possible UNEA 5 resolution on Sargassum to mainstream this issue across policy. And together with our partners, we at UNEP GPA, and especially the team dealing with the Global Partnership on Nutrient Management, are committed in providing technical support as required and requested by our partners and member states to help in drafting such a resolution. In conclusion, the next webinar in this series will be held in November 2020, will focus on the Caribbean region, which will be organized also in close collaboration with our colleagues at the Cartagena Convention. I would like to thank our partners today, the Abidjan Convention and the UNESCO IOC, for jointly organizing this webinar. I thank all of you who are on this call. I can see that we are around 196, almost reaching 200 participants from across the globe. And I wish you all a very stimulating webinar on the Sargassum challenges, responses, and collaboration in West Africa. Thank you very much. Over to you, Maj.
Thank you, Habib, for this very nice overview and welcoming opening remarks. It is now my pleasure to give the screen to our Regional Director for Africa, Madame Juliette Biel, for her opening remarks. Juliette, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Maesh, and good afternoon, good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues. It is really my great honor to be speaking before you today on such an important topic, the proliferation of the Sargassum. This is becoming a big concern because with the increase in quantity that are reaching the coast, 1,000 times more phosphate is generated, causing more algae to grow than coral in the brown tide. The amount of oxygen in the water decreases water decreases, causing the death of fish and the proliferation of bacteria. In West Africa, in 2011, unprecedented tide of Sargassum have been invading shorelines, and the proliferation has been attributed to nutrient pollution from the Mississippi, Amazon, and Congo rivers, fertilizer runoff and effluents, and rising temperatures. The Sargassum invasions have threatened the sustainability of coastal communities as they negatively impact fisheries, tourism, and human health. It should be noted that the engagement on the Sargassum in Africa region is recent. While at the regional level, the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment, known as AMCEN, has not focused on the particular issue of Sargassum. Several strategic documents, including African Union Strategic Document 2014, Africa Strategy on Climate Change, as well as AMCEN 15 draft document on climate change, made reference on the Sargassum challenge. A regional, now in November 2015, representative of the Abidjan Convention, as rightly mentioned my colleague Habib, including Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Togo, have really discussed the challenge of the Sargassum. And a global program of action and the West Africa biodiversity climate change was convened in Freetown, Sierra Leone, to discuss the development of a regional policy to address Sargassum invasion. A regional strategic document with an action plan was prepared, ready for adoption by the convention countries during the next COP13 in April 2021 in Pointe-Noire, Congo. Governments in West African countries plagued by Sargassum invasion would have to either task their citizens, reallocate scarce resources, or secure loans to implement their seaweed cleanup activities. Government will need the support of their citizens to ensure smooth implementation of the periodic skills cleanup program. Considering the transatlantic nature of Sargassum and its impact on coastline of the Gulf of Guinea and the Caribbean, tackling this issue would require a regional coordination beyond national jurisdiction. The West Africa and the wider Caribbean states made efforts at bringing Sargassum invasion to the attention to the United Nations Environment Assembly during its second session. A Green Room event was organized to draw attention of the wider environment community and the severe impact of Sargassum on the economy, and which also has the potential to contribute in achieving UNEP's global environmental mandate. An international conference on Sargassum took place in Guadeloupe on 23rd to 26th of October 2019. The declaration adopted at the end of the conference led to foundation for a Caribbean program for Sargassum. The Cartagena Convention dedicated technical working group with support by state and international organizations are already working to include the Sargassum thematic into the proposed resolution for adoption at the 5th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi, Kenya next year. This should be a joint effort by the Abidjan Convention countries. The African Ministerial Conference on the Environment could also be informed on the plague of Sargassum in this region over the past few years and its attendance to the problem. To conclude, I will say that the pace of proliferation of Sargassum is very fast, and the impact on both biodiversity and the economy is negative and requires an urgent action at local, regional, and global levels. The initiative and efforts in the Caribbean are commendable and will inspire African region beyond the Abidjan Convention to engage more the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment and even the African Union. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Juliet, for those nice opening remarks. We move on now to Abu, our third speaker for the opening session. We've been having slight technical issues, and I hope we can hear Abu. Abu, would you like to take the floor, please?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Great.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike. First of all, we'd like to observe, the protocol that we previously used and send all our greetings, from Abidjan to the regional director for the Africa office of UNEP, the coordinator of the GPA, our good friend and good supervisor, Habib. I hope you're doing well, and all the colleagues in Nairobi, IOC, and all over the world. So I will briefly introduce the Abidjan. I will briefly introduce the Abidjan Convention in terms of what it is. It's a regional treaty that brings together countries from Mauritania, all the West, Central, and Southern African countries between Morocco until South Africa, the Atlantic facade of the African continent. We have 19 contracting parties, and it covers 23 countries, including Morocco. And our mandate, we have is the unique governmental, institutional, governance, technical, political, or whatever you want, framework from the governments to look after the marine and coastal resources of the Atlantic facade of the African continent. It's a legally binding instrument that the countries put together and gave the secretariat to the United Nations Environment Program since 1985. Having said that brief introduction on the Abidjan Convention, we're gonna move into the issue. The first time we were approached by the government of Sierra Leone, that was in 2011. They've noticed steady influx of Sargassum seaweed, on the shores of Sierra Leone, and the phenomenon was recurring. So more and more, it started with Sierra Leone, and then we had Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and so many other African countries, Benin. They wrote to us and said, we have this phenomenon, the Abidjan Convention should do something about it. So it became an environmental emerging issue for those countries. So the Abidjan Convention had to react it because of the impacts were not only ecological and environmental, but there was also many socioeconomic impacts. And again, I think we need to be very credible when we serve our clients, the countries, for work. We cannot only consider the ecological dimension and ignore the socioeconomic. The majority of those countries approached the Abidjan because the fishery sector was in jeopardy, because the tourism sector was threatened, by these invasive species. So there was a whole bunch of socioeconomic impacts that we had to consider. The Abidjan Convention, thanks to support of GPA, USAID, and some other donors, managed to put together a regional strategy on invasive species, invasive marine species, was focused on Sargassum. This strategy is articulated around the following pillars. First of all, we call for action in terms of early detection and rapid response, before the seaweeds actually reach the shores. There was also an important component on the control of the seaweeds, as well as eradication, containment, and finally research, which actually includes some activities on what do we do with the sargassum when they are in massive presence on the shores of West Central and Southern African coast. So this is, in a nutshell, how the regional strategy actually is articulated, and it has already been actually approved by the contracting parties, the Abidjan Convention. Now, with regard to what do we do from now, and with regard to the way forward, we believe that it's time now that we not only at the regional level bring some action to face the problem and implement the regional strategy, but we do have an action plan, that came together with the regional strategy. What we need to do now is to raise funds, both at the domestic level, international level. We've already approached the African Development Bank, focusing on the socio-economic impacts, the cost of not taking action against sargassum, and how much money countries are losing in terms of tourism, in terms of navigation, in terms of fisheries, so that we can raise the attention to this very important, very emerging environmental issue. So I will not be very long, and I would like to conclude my introductory remarks of this afternoon by saying that the sargassum crisis in West African countries is also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for South-South cooperation. Caribbean countries, Latin American countries that are affected by the same phenomenon, and West African countries, can collaborate, can cooperate in order to join hand in hand and sort out the problem. Exchange of experience. Scientists, on the two sides of the Atlantic should get together, and that was a unique opportunity for those two sides of the Atlantic, for South-South cooperation, to get genuine results. So finally, I would like to express our deepest appreciation to the GPA program and its coordinator, the regional director for Africa of UNEP, of course, and UNESCO, IOC, USAID, and all the partners and colleagues who've made this webinar possible. And I thank you very much for your attention. Over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abu. That was the Executive Secretary of the Abidjan Convention, for your opening remarks. So this concludes the opening session. We move now to the first part of this webinar, which is to give you a detailed overview of this regional strategy for sargassum for West Africa. And for this, we have Jack, who will be presenting. Milka, can you please make Jack the presenter, and we can have the slides on. We have close to 215 people on the call, so it's great to see the level of interest. Jack, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Resh.
Yeah, and maybe if you can turn on the camera, please. Yes, we can.
Okay, then can you see my screen? Okay, so the sargassum in reality is a reality in the West African coast, and the Executive Secretary just told you about what's happening in the region and the actions to be taken in the West African coast. So he also mentioned the countries in the Abidjan Convention, the 22 countries from Mauritania to South Africa. And the issue of the sargassum, which was noted since 2011 in our coast, then drawing attention of the nations in the region. to try to pay attention and seek an effective mechanism to manage this in this environment. So we were thinking of where are they from, really? So here, the reason for the Sargassum being in our coastal waters is attributed to agricultural and treated wastewaters, which bring nitrogen and phosphorus from the main rivers like the Congo River and Amazon River. And you can see in this map where the countries affected in the West African coast in the Abidjan Convention area. Of course, you can also see on the left the Sargasso Sea, where they are supposed to come from. In the West African coast, as you can see from 2011 to 2020, you can see where they were recorded massive invasion in the coast, in Senegal, Guinea, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. If you don't see any yellow dot facing other countries, that doesn't mean that the Sargassum is not there. It's just because we have not recorded in the executive secretary here in Abidjan, the secretariat. So, of course, we also mentioned about the impact, the ecological impact, the impact on tourism and leisure, and the socio-economic impact. And we discussed it last time during the webinar. We have, of course, an approach, and Abu just mentioned it. Some local actions have been taken, and in the Abidjan Convention, we are trying to manage the collaboration to address this issue of invasion. So the steps taken so far were the November meeting in Sierra Leone, mentioned by the director, and in March 2016, the conference in the British Islands, and also we, Abidjan Convention, have participated to the UNEA SDG meeting in Nairobi to put together our thinking about how to manage the Sargassum, either in the West African coast or in the Caribbean. Then in August 2016, we had the last meeting which brought together the Abidjan Convention, the WABIC project of USAID, and the UNEP GPA to try to prepare a regional strategy and action plan. And this regional strategy action plan is one of the main documents that we want to propose to suggest to the region. It was composed of 10 points that you can see on the screen. The first one was the early detection and rapid response. So the earlier we can detect, the better the prospect for containing the invasion species dispersion and minimizing the cost of control will be effective. Secondly, the control of invasion alien species population using regionally effective methods. The flow of water recognizes no political boundaries, so therefore the application of control, especially chemical and biological control, needs to be done through regionally coordinated actions. Third, we have also a branch of research, monitoring, and capacity building. The aim of here is to acquire better understanding of the biology, the ecology, and potential impact on the regional ecosystem. Fourth, we are dealing with legislation to identify, amend, strengthen, and support domestic policies at the national and regional levels. Then we also talk about education and awareness. implementation of effective education and outreach program to enhance and direct public perception. Then we also have that we need real collaboration, and the Executive Secretary just mentioned it, but just mention it. My slide went off. Okay. And also need, of course, funding. And the question of sourcing and mobilize funds, which is one of the primary questions to be solved, because we have seen that even at the local level, sometimes the municipalities are trying to collect and clean the beaches, but it's on the voluntary basis. So we need a kind of methodology or mechanism to fund these activities in each country. Value addition and alternative use. Of course, we have mentioned several use of the sargassum as fertilizer, as compost, and so on. And also at the national level, some of the panelists will talk about medicinal use of it. Then we also talk about the prevention. We all know that prevention is better than cure. And the pollution, of course, it was considered as a kind of pollution, as proliferation aquatic is often indicative of increased nutrient level in watershed and wetlands. So these are the 10 points composing the regional strategy document, which has been prepared by the convention and will be discussed in next April next year in Pointe Noire in Congo. These are the main points mentioning the strategy, the content of the strategy as let's say the important document to be submitted to the African countries in the Abidjan Convention. Thank you. Over.
We move on now to the national presentations, Jack, which will be yourself. So maybe I think the first speaker is Paul.
Yes, the first speaker is Paul from EPA Sierra Leone, who is going to talk about the Sargassum seaweed invasion, the barrier in transforming the infestation into potential wealth creation opportunity. Paul, the floor is yours.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me and you can see my screen. Hello,
Yes.
Mr. Adi, can you? Okay. All right, okay, thank you so much. So I am Paul Ulamin, and I work at the Environment Protection Agency, Sierra Leone. And I have been part of the coordinating team in all the Sargassum issues in Sierra Leone. And currently also I serve as the national focal point for the Abidjan Convention. I want to thank the UNEP and the IOC UNESCO for organizing this webinar on Sargassum, and also the invitation for us Sierra Leone to participate in this webinar. Thank you so much. So in Sierra Leone, I am talking about the Sargassum invasion and also the barriers in transforming the infestation into potential wealth creation opportunities. So in the last statement by the Abidjan Convention Executive Secretary and also the UNEP Regional Director, I think they have highlighted the problems of the infestation and also what has been done at the regional level. So for the benefit of participants who could not know the background of this whole issue, maybe for Sierra Leone, let me just start by saying that we started recording the invasion of the Sargassum in 2011, precisely in June. And normally, June is the start. June is the second month of the start of the rainy season in my country, and it ends in October. So every rainy season since 2011, we have experienced Sargassum infestation, and a mass of Sargassum seaweed have landed on our beaches, the entire beaches. So during that time, we did some initial studies, and the Sargassum was identified as the seaweed was identified as a Sargassum seaweed. That's the brown seaweed. And since then, we have experienced the reoccurrence every year. Then it became a serious problem in the region when we also noticed that the seaweed was also landing in the neighboring countries almost at the same time. So the impact, it's almost the same. Other speakers, including Mr. Jack Abbey, has already mentioned some of the impacts the Sargassum seaweed has caused to the tourism sector, to the fishery sector, to the transport sector in West African countries. So Sierra Leone is not unique. We have also experienced similar impacts, negative impacts, and this has caused loss of access to the the to the beaches. And normally when the seaweed comes, it comes in a fresh form, but when it lands on the beach with this, it will get rot, and that decomposing smell is actually offensive. So this actually drives away people or ordinary beach users. So in 2019, a frame survey was done, and they recorded that about 30,000 fishermen were registered along the coastline of Sierra Leone. That number may have increased by now because that is one of the sectors that attract many people, many young people every time. So this has also caused unemployment among the youths, and also the whenever people go to fishing, that fishing net will get damaged, it will get clogged, and along the Lumley Beach area, normally they used to do a beach scene fishing, and they only do that when the water is clear. But with the Sargassum, that is quite impossible. Then water transport. If you see the geography of Sierra Leone, you may find that we have several islands, and most of these islands are only accessible by water. So navigation has also been so difficult when there's the seaweed. We have places like Plantain Island. Plantain Island is also one of the largest fishing area. We have Burnt Island. Burnt Island is only accessible by sea. So, and even our airport here, we have two options. You can use a vehicle, but that will take you hours to get to the airport. but the shortest way to get to the airport from Freetown is by the sea. So normally this has also caused serious problem in navigation. And also there have been some studies conducted by NGOs and which state that most of the areas along the Turtle Island has been identified to be turtle nesting site. So whenever the seaweed invade our beaches, that becomes also an ecological problem. So what are the initial actions since then, since 2011? As I said earlier, that we actually carried out preliminary studies. The Institute of Marine Biology and Oceanography here at the University of Sierra Leone carried out some studies. Then later on, we also invited another university from Senegal. So they also joined our expert. They carried out another study. Then finally in 2014, we also carried out another study, so which also brought out some findings. So based on that findings and the recommendation, so Sierra Leone hosted the first regional expert group meeting, which was held in November 2015. As you can see from the photo on the left, that is Mr. Abu Bamba, who launched the first State of the Marine Environment report during that occasion. And down you can see a participant at that regional meeting. At that regional meeting, we actually had to 8 countries, West African countries. And Madam, the regional director from UNEP already mentioned that. So the national response. So what we have been actually doing, well, largely is the beach cleanup. And these are actually come from the voluntary services from youth and also workers from the National Tourist Board, which is an agency under the Ministry of Tourism. So cleaning of the beach has been one of the remedial measures, and the government of Sierra Leone has been responsible for that. Well, we have prioritized which areas to clean due to the priority and also the limited funds. So the Lonely Aberdeen Beach has been one of the priority areas that the government has focused. Then at number 2 River Beach, there is a community organization. So they have this tourism initiative. So they have actually doing that on the community level. So then in 2017, we invited there's an organization in St. Lucia in the Caribbean, Algas Organics. So we invited them to Sierra Leone, and so they came and did some exploratory mission. So Algas Organics is an organization in St. Lucia. They actually uses the Sargassum to manufacture organic fertilizer. So that exploration mission was a very successful one, and I want to thank the Abidjan Convention who actually helped to create that link and who actually invited Mr. Johanan Duchamp to make that trip to Sierra Leone. So what was the outcome of that exploration mission? It was there was a public-private partnership proposal presented by Algas Organics. So that means that the Algas Organics was to form partnership with the government of Sierra Leone to set up a cottage industry in Sierra Leone. So prior to that visit, we had some private enterprises that have been actually carrying out some initial initial trials on transforming a seaweed into a usable product. So we have one center they call Female Industry National Industrialization Center, FINIC for short. So they carry out some trials alongside other organizations like support from the EPA. So as you can see from the photo down here, down the screen, you can see these were the briquettes produced by Phoenix. And the briquettes we also tested to be very efficient and even more efficient than charcoal. And so in 2017, there was a plan to export some 10 40-feet containers of Sargassum to St. Lucia. So this was actually some initial actions that we wanted to take whilst the government was still thinking over this public-private partnership proposal. So, but unfortunately, in 2017, we didn't get much of the seaweed. So it only appeared in July and August. That was very, very minimal. So so that was fruitless. We couldn't embark on the export of the seaweed that time. So what are the realities of the recurrence? So now, many people along the coast have now accustomed, they have now used to the seaweed coming every rainy season. So because of that, now people have that attitude to actually self-impose some restrictions, just like an adaptation measures that, okay, every time the seaweed comes, okay, this has to constrain our fishing activities. This has to constrain our tourism industries, recreational activities will cease. So now people have that kind of idea that, okay, at so time in August, in July, we have to reduce our activities. So this has had some serious impact on the tourism, the fishing sector, and other transport sector, and also recreational sector. It's also created some panic because many times, when investors come and they want to open some business here, and when they learn that this is the situation, so that will create some panic and shock. Then, of course, there have been some drawdown on activities and also investment because of several uncertainties. So what we did not know and what we do not know currently is that whenever the seaweed invasion happens every rainy season, we do not know how long it will last, and we do not know how much quantities we will expect. Currently here in Sierra Leone, this is the time we were expecting the seaweed. But unfortunately, the seaweed, the quantity has reduced drastically. This year, it's much less. In fact, sometimes it only happened in August, and now you hardly find any deposits on the beaches in Freetown. But elsewhere along down south, you may find some amount of seaweed on the beaches. So those are some of the constraints that people cannot carry out their normal activities because we do not know how the seaweed impacts such activities at every given time, and also whether the businesses can thrive. So personally, I also think that we have some lapses in the regional strategy. Even though it was mentioned earlier that the regional action plan is yet to be adopted by the Abidjan Convention, but we already have the validated regional strategy. So it was the idea that affected countries will start to implementing some of the actions in that strategy, regional strategy. But one of the major stumbling block we have seen is the communication gaps, because previously there was this attitude of communication among the affected countries, and countries, Sierra Leone will inform Nigeria when we have the landing, when the landing, the Sargassum reaches our coast, and Liberia will also tell us what they are doing and how the magnitude of the landings, things like that. But over the years, this has been some of the challenges we have faced. Then also the aspect of fund mobilizations has been very ineffective. Even to conduct research at the national level. Sorry?
Can you conclude, please? Your 10 minutes is over.
Yes, I have the last slide now. So let me move on to the COVID-19 factor on the local response. This is almost the last slide now. So early detection has been a problem because normally we have relied on the fishermen when they go out fishing. So if they saw seaweed coming, then they will inform the authorities. But this has been a problem because of the lockdown due to COVID-19. Then we cannot mobilize youth to embark on beach cleaning. Voluntary activities has been ceased because there have been so many job losses, and people they prefer not to engage in voluntary activities anymore. And also cut down on financial and in-kind support. People have been doing some support towards the beach cleaning, like the hotel owners, the business owners along the beach, because of they are now experiencing low returns. So this has been a problem also. Then the loss of revenue, so that's very clear, and also reduction in government allocation to MDAs. Even the National Territory Board has been leading, and the beach cleaning has also faced this constraint. And also because now government is prioritizing spending on money on addressing COVID-19 issues rather than on seaweed. And so we cannot conduct any lab analysis because it's also difficult to maybe get to send samples of Sargassum to other countries or other labs for testing. And also domestic research has also been halted because universities are closed. Then NGOs are also not working. So some of the key pressing things are the cost of cleaning, and also we cannot set up the seaweed cottage industry because that was the major concern in the public-private partnership proposal, because we do not know whether the seaweed will come next year or whether it will continue coming, or whether the quantity we want to start this business, this cottage industry, will actually make that industry a very effective one. And also, we do not have sufficient data at the moment. So what we are actually currently doing at the moment, we are now trying to do another additional research on the chemical component of a seaweed. So this one was supported by United Nations Development Program. So we want to look at the chemical composition of the seaweed. We want to look at how is it possible to actually transform the seaweed into animal feed. So that's what actually we are currently doing. I thank you for your attention. I'm so sorry for. Yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Paul, for this interesting presentation. Before moving to the next speaker, I would like to ask the participant to write their question so that by the end of the presentations, we can go through and give some answers. So saying so, let's give the floor to Komoe Kofi, who will talk about the case in Côte d'Ivoire. When the Sargassum are there, what is happening? What kind of measure the government is taking in Côte d'Ivoire? So Mr. Komoe will shift into French. So for those who can speak French, there's no problem. For others, I think we are very sorry because the details cannot be given in English. But let's say the topic is the same, and what is going to talk about, you will understand, I'm sure. So Kofi Komoe, tu as la parole. Tu peux cliquer sur ton diapositive pour qu'on puisse voir sur ton écran.
On voit? On voit?
Un instant.
OK. Bonsoir, messieurs, bonsoir, mesdames. Alors, un ensemble d'activités était mené en Côte d'Ivoire pour faire face aux sargasses. Donc, le titre de notre exposé, c'est quelle stratégie mettre en place, en œuvre pour une gestion durable des macroalgues Sargassum envahissant les eaux marines de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, de la Côte d'Ivoire. Notre exposé sera structuré selon le plan suivant. En 1, nous allons présenter de façon brève les sargasses. En 2, nous allons présenter la problématique et les enjeux de la gestion durable des sargasses, puis présenter un projet de charte nationale pour une gestion durable des sargasses et enfin présenter un projet de plan d'action pour la mise en œuvre de la charte nationale. Alors, concernant donc les sargasses, il faut dire que c'est en 2011 qu'elles ont fait leur apparition sur les côtes donc ivoiriennes et des investigations menées pour maîtriser ou mieux cerner ces espèces ont montré qu'il s'agit de 2 espèces, à savoir Sargassum fruitans et Sargassum natans. Alors, nous avons mené des investigations sur toute la côte ivoirienne pour savoir quels sont les endroits qui sont impactés. En dehors donc des plages, il faut dire que nous avons constaté que les embouchures de fleuves, les lagunes et les canaux, les rivières également, qui sont en communication avec l'océan, étaient également impactés. Nous avons ici une vue des sargasses sur les plages à Sini, qui est la zone côtière ivoirienne, justement avec donc, le Ghana. Alors, en ce qui concerne la problématique et les enjeux de la gestion durable des sargasses en Côte d'Ivoire, il faut dire que nous avons organisé un ensemble d'ateliers pour voir, face à l'apparition des sargasses donc, en Côte d'Ivoire, quels sont les problèmes nouveaux qu'on rencontre au niveau donc, de nos côtes. Et nous nous sommes rendus compte que le problème central, c'est l'insuffisance de gestion des sargasses envahissant les eaux marines ivoiriennes. Mais au-delà de ce problème central, il existe des problèmes secondaires. Par exemple, l'insuffisance institutionnelle et juridique, il y a la perte des services écosystémiques et de la diversité biologique, il y a l'insuffisance des mécanismes de financement durable et une meilleure organisation des marchés de sous-produits issus de la valorisation. Et enfin, il y a l'insuffisance du système d'information et de communication et la non-implication des populations donc riveraines. Au plan écologique et socio-économique, il faut dire que la présence des sargasses a entraîné la dégradation des habitats. Au niveau de la pêche, par exemple, on a une réduction des ressources donc halieutiques. En ce qui concerne le tourisme, il y a la fuite donc des touristes due à la présence des sargasses. Il faut rappeler que les sargasses, en séchant, dégagent de l'hydrogène sulfureux qui provoque des maux de tête, des rhumes, et ce qui fait que quand elles surviennent, les touristes se font de plus en plus rares. Alors, face à ces différents maux, quelle stratégie l'État ivoirien a adoptée pour faire face? L'État a mis en place donc un projet de charte nationale pour une gestion durable des sargasses en Côte d'Ivoire. Il faut dire que l'objet et les champs d'action de ce projet de charte nationale, c'est d'harmoniser les principes et fixer les modalités de gestion des ressources de l'écosystème marin par les institutions dans leur domaine et les différentes communautés locales et riveraines. Ensuite, déterminer les règles relatives à la protection de l'environnement et à la conservation des ressources en relation avec les sargasses. Puis, définir le cadre et les modalités de participation des différents acteurs des sargasses dans la prise de décisions de gestion des ressources de l'écosystème. Enfin, définir les modalités d'examen et d'approbation des programmes et des projets d'utilisation des sargasses. Alors, quels sont les principes et modalités de gestion durable des sargasses? Il faut dire au niveau des modalités de gestion durable, il a été donc mis en place un renforcement du cadre juridique institutionnel, la restauration, la conservation des milieux dégradés et une utilisation rationnelle des sargasses. Ensuite, il a été donc mis en place un mécanisme de financement durable et une meilleure organisation du marché des sous-produits. Et il a été face donc à la non-implication des populations locales, il a été donc conseillé l'implication et de la sensibilisation des populations donc riveraines. il faut dire que les dispositions relatives à la mise en œuvre de la charte, c'est d'œuvrer à une meilleure gestion durable donc, des sargasses. Donc, il faut créer des institutions chargées donc, de la gestion des sargasses. Alors, en cas, quel plan d'action pour une gestion durable des sargasses en Côte d'Ivoire? Il faut dire que l'objectif du plan, c'est de contribuer à une meilleure gestion durable des sargasses. Et le contenu de ce plan d'action-là, c'est de renforcer le cadre juridique institutionnel, d'œuvrer à la restauration, à la conservation des milieux concernés par la microalgue et une meilleure utilisation des sargasses. Ensuite, il faut améliorer le système d'information et de communication et une meilleure participation des populations locales. Nous avons ici un exemple de plan d'action au plan national. Alors, pour une restauration et la conservation donc, des milieux impactés par les microalgues, l'objectif spécifique ici, c'est de mettre en œuvre un plan de gestion des sargasses. Et pour cela, il faut faire une synthèse bibliographique donc, des espèces, faire l'inventaire et la taxonomie donc, des espèces envahissantes. Ensuite, il faut étudier ces espèces au plan dans le temps et dans l'espace pour savoir à quelle période elles prolifèrent et quelles sont les périodes donc, où il n'y a pas de prolifération. Ensuite, on a mis en œuvre un mécanisme de gestion de ces sargasses et ensuite, enfin, pour mieux maîtriser dans les sargasses, nous avons mené un ensemble d'activités au plan scientifique pour essayer de valoriser les sargasses. Alors, quelles sont donc les actions à mettre en œuvre pour une meilleure gestion durable de ces sargasses? Il faut dire qu'en Côte d'Ivoire, plusieurs actions ont été menées. Par exemple, nous avons créé une équipe donc, de recherche pluridisciplinaire. Et cette équipe a conduit des études pour maîtriser la variation spatio-temporelle des sargasses. Ensuite, elle a conseillé de mettre donc en place sur le long donc, du littoral ivoirien une brigade verte, qui est une brigade d'alerte, de collecte et de ramassage des sargasses. Par ailleurs, il a été préconisé donc, pour une gestion mécanique par les barrages, les embouchures, le ramassage, le séchage et l'enfouissement des sargasses. Au-delà donc de ces différentes actions, au plan scientifique, nous avons mené un ensemble d'actions, par exemple, l'extraction des composés chimiques des sargasses, l'extraction donc des sels nutritifs, des protéines, et ces différentes actions nous ont permis donc de savoir que les sargasses possèdent d'énormes potentialités. Ici, où la planche à l'écran montre la valorisation, par exemple, des sargasses par le compostage. Donc, lorsqu'elles surviennent, une équipe donc, est chargée de les ramasser et d'aller donc les entasser dans un endroit. Ensuite, on les laisse donc pourrir. Et il faut dire que ces déchets sont mélangés avec les déchets alimentaires, les ordures ménagères. Et après plusieurs mois, alors, la décomposition ici donc, de ces sargasses est mise donc en sachet et c'est ce qu'on appelle donc le compost qu'on peut utiliser au niveau donc agricole. Par exemple, on a vu un sac de 70 kg peut coûter jusqu'à 3500 et un sac de 50 kg peut aller jusqu'à 3000, ce qui est donc une source de revenus pour les populations qui pratiquent donc le compostage des sargasses. Au laboratoire, nous avons mené un certain nombre d'analyses, par exemple la composition chimique de l'estre total à queue de Sargassum fluitans, et nous nous sommes rendus compte que c'est une espèce qui est riche en éléments donc, nutritifs tels que donc, le potassium, la manganèse, le zinc, les protéines, l'azote et le phosphore, par exemple, qui fait 55%, ce qui est énorme, et puisque le phosphore et l'azote font partie donc des éléments essentiels à la prolifération donc, des sargasses. Et lorsqu'on utilise l'extrait inoculé donc à des graines d'arachide, en 24 heures par exemple, on a constaté que les graines poussent. C'est pour dire qu'on peut utiliser l'extrait de sargasses comme biostimulant. Et demain, on peut l'exploiter au niveau donc des engrais verts, ce qui est vraiment intéressant. Par exemple, le screening réalisé au niveau donc, de l'extrait total à queue a montré que au niveau donc, de Sargassum fluitans, par exemple, nous avons la présence de polyphénols et de tannins caténiques. Or, ce sont des éléments chimiques essentiels utilisés en médecine et en pharmacologie. C'est pour dire que si on pousse la recherche au niveau donc de ces espèces, demain on peut par exemple utiliser l'extrait issu donc des sargasses dans la lutte contre les bactéries qui déciment les poulets et les lapins en élevage. Bon, au titre des informations, il faut dire que pour mieux s'imprégner des réalités des autres nations, nous avons participé donc à plusieurs ateliers, par exemple en Sierra Leone et au Libéria. Et ici même à Abidjan, nous avons publié les résultats scientifiques donc, de nos travaux. Nous avons fait 3 publications qui sont apparues dans des revues internationales. Nous avons également fait des posters, mener des campagnes de sensibilisation au niveau des populations riveraines donc, de la zone côtière pour leur implication dans la gestion donc, des sargasses. En conclusion, nous pouvons dire que les sargasses, depuis leur apparition au niveau de nos côtes, posent beaucoup donc, de problèmes au plan sociologique, au plan économique. Mais si elles sont bien gérées, elles peuvent contribuer à l'amélioration du bien-être des populations. Par exemple, celui qui pratique le compostage des sargasses peut demain les utiliser, peut les vendre, ce qui représente une source de revenus. Nous avons mené un ensemble d'activités et ces résultats sont très encourageants puisqu'il y aura une soutenance de thèse sur les aspects pharmacologiques des sargasses l'année prochaine à l'université Fetsou-Boigny. Et je crois que ça ouvre beaucoup donc de pistes pour d'autres secteurs au plan scientifique, puisque les lapins, par exemple, sont attaqués par un genre de bactéries et les quelques essais menés ont montré que l'extrait de sargasse arrive donc à tuer ces bactéries-là. C'est pour dire que si on poursuit ces études, cela peut représenter beaucoup d'espoir, une solution pour la maîtrise donc des mortalités des lapins en élevage. Mesdames et messieurs, voici les quelques actions menées en Côte d'Ivoire. Je vous remercie.
Ok, merci beaucoup, Komoe. Thank you very much for your presentation, showing that sargasse can be used for our immune system. I'm happy to hear that because we really need it. The next speaker is Clément Dogbe from Benin, who will tell us about the case in Benin and mainly on the valorization attempt. Clément, the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes, please. Unmute your microphone, please.
Thank you very much.
Unmute your microphone.
Yes. Can you hear it from me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much giving me the floor. I'm so glad to be one of yours this afternoon or evening. My presentation will be entitled Sargassum Management and Valorization Attempt in Benin.
The screen is off.
I think we lost him. So can we move to Bolaji as we wait for him to be back?
Yes, let's do that to save time. If Bolaji is ready, can you hear me? Talking
yes, I can
about
hear you.
the impact of Sargassum seaweeds on Nigerian coast and potential utilization. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, good evening, all. Let me share my, you're seeing my webcam now. I'm talking about the impact of Sargassum seaweed on Nigerian coastal waters and potential utilization. I work with Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research. I'd like to brief a bit about location of Nigeria in the African continent. Nigeria is located between longitude 3 and 15 degrees east and latitude 4 and 14 degrees north, with an approximate landmass of 923,768 kilometers square, and it's bordered to the north by Niger and Chad, to the west by Benin Republic, east by Cameroon, and the southern region by Atlantic Ocean. The coastline of Nigeria is approximately 853 kilometers with 200 nautical mile EEZ, which covers an area of 210,900 kilometers square, in which Nigeria has sovereign rights for the purpose of exploitation, conserving, and managing its resources. Nigerian coastline witnessed the landing on Sargassum seaweed in a quantity that has not been witnessed before now. In a quantity that has not been witnessed before 2011, and that year marked a significant impact year, though there has been school of thought that there's possibility of invasion that can be dated earlier to 2009 based on satellite analysis, but 2011 marked a significant impact of seaweed on Nigerian coastal waters and the beach. And Sargassum seaweed has gradually become part of the species that has been listed to be occurring in Nigerian waters. The Sargassum seaweed species that is in Nigeria has been identified to be Sargassum flutum and Sargassum natum. These two are the species that is present currently in Nigeria. The distribution of Sargassum seaweed. There has been sighting and collection of Sargassum seaweed, and it has been reported in the brackish water, the marine environment, and patches have also been collected on the coastal beaches of the 8 coastal states of the country, ranging from Lagos down to Cross River on all the 8 coastal states. The free-floating nature of Sargassum make it easy to impact not just the coastal beaches, but also to areas that have intertidal influences. If you look at the map there, we'll see several rivers that connect to the Atlantic. These rivers have also been impacted. Those estuaries also have Sargassum that has also been collected, sited in different places. The table shows locations where Sargassum has been reported to have been either collected or cited by different authors that have published on Sargassum invasion in Nigeria. Now, what are the impacts of Sargassum in Nigeria? There has been several and enormous impacts, not just in Nigeria, but in most coastal states in West Africa, and it has affected the fishery so drastically. It has affected the artisanal as well as the industrial fishery. The artisanal fishery sectors, they have challenges of navigating to the fishing ground. It also has to do with their fishing gears. Most of the time, it's clogged with seaweed, and it takes time to be able to remove these clogs and also to be able to sort fish. And with what result on what they catch? It gives them very low catches. This is very significant impact on them because it affects their livelihood. It gives them low return on investment. The industrial fishery sector. Although they operate one type of fishing gear, which is the demarcator trawl, and normally you might consider that, oh, Yes, they are not supposed to be impacted, but unfortunately, most of the time, or some of the time, the old catch sometimes is almost filled with sargassum, with very little target species. And these happen at different fishing grounds that that has been reported. And this is an enormous impact on them. Looking at the fact that there is high running cost for vessels. The vessel maintenance cost for vessel is very high. Fueling the vessel for fishing activity, the automotive gas, oil, AGO or diesel is very expensive. And this industry, as at 2015, was well over 56 million. If we separate that and look at what the industry might be working now, it will be worth far more than $70 million as at present. But what do they have when they go out? They have very low catches, is what they are reporting as they come back. This evasion has definitely affected the nation's ability to be able to meet up with the set target goals on the Sustainable Development Goals. It affected the SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 8, and SDG 14, which has to do with poverty, hunger, economic growth, and at the same time, life below the water. It also has health impact also on the fishermen. They encounter it either at the beach, when they are retrieving their catches, when they are hauling up, when they are sorting their fish, when they are preparing their net for the next fishing trip. All of these has negative impact on their health. Some have reported skin rashes, nausea situation, fainting, and also eye problem has also been reported to be associated with interaction with sargassum. This poses a great challenge on the nation's ability to be able to meet up with SDG 3, which is related to good health and well-being of the citizens. Well, it's not all bad issues. There are also positive sides to the sargassum, as some of my colleagues have also mentioned. It can be used in fish feed production, fertilizer, direct consumption, medicine and pharmaceutical, and it can also be used as alternative in livestock feed. There exists a great opportunity in Nigeria and as well for the West African to be able to use sargassum as part of Blue Economic Program. Currently, there are different indigenous and foreign companies that are setting up production of fish feed. If we look at the proximate analysis of sargassum, it gives good quality materials that can be used to be included in the fish feed that can be used to produce for catfish, tilapia, brackish water fishes, and several marine fishes. This will contribute a great extent to reduction in cost of fish production, fish feed production, and also improve the performance of cultured fishes. The cost of fish feed is presently high, in fact, very high for the farmers. This will help to be able to bring this down. It can also be used as liquid fertilizer for tomato production, vegetable, yam, sweet potato, and also as alternative livestock for cow, goats, and sheep. This will help to also be able to address the clashes between herdsmen and farmers over grazing land that are being encroached by the herdsmen. It will provide alternative feed for them that they can use. Direct consumption. In Nigeria, currently, there are two particular vegetables that are consumed in high quantity: the fluted gourd and the cerealium bologi. In Nigeria, the fluted gourd is local name is ugu, and in the other name is worowo. Now, if we look at the content, the food protein content for the two species, we'll see that it is far lower than what sargassum seed contains. Sargassum contains about 154 milligrams per 100 grams of food protein. That means that if a process can be established for adequate and safe production of sargassum, it will be a good competitor for these other consumable vegetables in the industry, and it had a chance to be acceptable in the nation and also on the West African region. Also, there has been use of it in medicine and pharmaceuticals. The sargassum contains some chemicals that are very good for either antioxidants and also malaria that is very disturbing us in this region. It can also be used also for blood pressure control. This, if addressed, if used, will help a great deal in addressing the SDGs. SDG 1, it reduces poverty, provides food, hunger, and also economic yield will come up with it. What are the future outlooks? For us, we look at to establish a warning center for early detection of sargassum floating mass offshore, to develop environmental friendly and cost-effective harvesting techniques for floating mass offshore, to establish species diversity, to know which species are impacting the coastal waters, and to isolate other possible invasive species that are within that mass that is impacting the coastal area. Then to develop a sustainable industrial product from the invasive sargassum and empower the coastal community as a blue economy program. Then to establish a safety protocol for interaction with sargassum in its process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bolaji, and thank you for this information as sargassum as a condiment. The next time I come to Victoria Island, I will try to taste the woro.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. The next speaker, let's say we go back to Clement Adjournou Dogbe to end his presentation, and then we move to the last speaker. Clement, you have the floor. Please, your microphone.
Okay, thank you. Could you hear me from me? Could you see my screen?
Yes, I can hear you and see your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I was saying that the title of my presentation is Sargassum Management and Valorization Attempts in Benin. And in introduction, I was saying that since 2011 till now, Sargassum invasion occurred in Benin's coastline. And Benin so suffer from the drawback of this invasion, Sargassum invasion, as beach pollution, leading to negative impact of tourism, disturbance of artisanal fishery activities, and biodiversity threats. What is the current management approach in Benin? Okay, in Benin, the only solution is the sanitation of beaches, considered the pollution issue by collecting seaweeds. And this is organized by the Living Environment and Sustainable Development Ministry and some NGOs. In terms of valorization of sargassum now, it is a case study, a project conceived by the Fisheries and Oceanologic Research Institute of Benin, and its valorization of sargassum seaweed in animal foods. And the first step is to assess the proximate composition and nutritional value of a mixture of seaweed, Sargassum cuitans and Sargassum natans. This step consists of assess the composition in dry matter, protein, and fats. The second is to assess the mineral content, and finally assess the amino acid, the central amino acid profile in the seaweeds. And we have in the coastline, on the coastline of Benin, two kinds of Sargassum, two species previously identified, the Sargassum fruitans and Sargassum nitens. And by after collecting the mixture, we have both of them. In terms of results, we identify in the mixture of the Sargassum protein weight, which reach about 6% of dry weight, and that allowed us to see that seaweeds can be used as a vegetable protein source for livestock feeding. And the most important of this study is to check about essential amino acid profile of seaweed mixture. We can say through this slide that we have all the essential amino acid in the seaweeds, namely methionine, tryptophan, lysine, histidine, valine, isoleucine, phenylalanine, and leucine, except arginine. And the percentage vary from 1.57 to 0.57 to 1.42. Then we can say that these species, these seaweeds, are suitable for animal feeding, especially fish. And in Benin, we used to breed two species of fish. It is Oreopromis nauticus and Clarias carepinis. I mean, Nile tilapia and African catfish. And we see that the essential amino acid profile perfectly fulfill the amino acid needs of the two commonly bred fish in Benin. So now concerning mineral contents, we found sodium, calcium, phosphorus, and potassium, magnesium, iron, and zinc in the mixture of the seaweed. A total, these mineral elements represent about 34% of dry matters, and their concentration vary from 0.01 to 28.36 gram per 100 kilogram of dry matters. And among this mineral element is among the mineral elements requisite for both of above mentioned fish growing. In conclusion of this study, we can say that Sargassum mixture collected from our beach is important, is valuable in animal stock farming because of the protein weight, amino acid profile, mineral element composition. Okay, what about remaining step of the project? Very soon we will move on this step and share the results. And I can say that we are drafting the paper for its publication. In Benin, we have other ongoing projects. That project is conceived by the Laboratory of Water Science and Technology from National Institute of Water. And this project consists of producing biogas through a methanation process. And we still wait for the result of this project. Okay, in conclusion, we can say that in Benin, we still is at the beginning of Sargassum valorization, but we have some barriers. Barriers consist of the incertitude of the continued availability of seaweed for its use and fundings for research projects. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dogbe Clement. We will quickly move to the last presentation, and not the least, and give the floor to Professor Ado Kwasi Apinin from Ghana, who will talk about the challenges and responses facing the population in Ghana concerning the Sargassum. Professor Ado, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see your screen and you can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be talking about the SATRA project, which is the project called the Teleconnected Sargassum project. And this project is being, it's a 3-year project which started in November and hopefully will finish in 2022. We started November 2019. And this project is an ongoing project between some universities, and I'll mention that. So in this presentation, I'll give a brief introduction about the project, talk about the scope, and then the steps that are being taken so far as the project is concerned. Now, with regards to the problem that has been enumerated by my previous speakers, we realize that Sargassum is gradually becoming a huge problem in our sub-region. But the question we keep asking ourselves is it a potentially new normal thing that our fishermen and people living along the coast are going to be confronted with? And are there things that we can do moving forward? So new normal, our fishermen.
Can you open your camera?
Hello.
We can't see you.
Can you see me now?
No. I can see only Kofi Komoy. Nobody else. Okay, please go ahead. We'll solve it later.
Okay. All right. Let me try again. Is it better now?
No, you are not appearing. We can see your screen, so you can continue the presentation.
Okay, okay. So the issue is that, is it a new normal that we have to be confronted with moving forward? Hello, I think I'm having some challenges.
No, we can hear you. Please continue.
Okay. So there has been several media, issues, media publications about Sargassum in the Caribbean and Sargassum in West Africa. And these publications are indicating the major issues that are confronting governments in the sub-region, scientists and civil organizations so far as Sargassum is concerned. So the aim of our project is to identify the opportunities for transformational adaptation that can be generated through the management and reuse of the invasive Sargassum seaweed, which is increasingly being found across Caribbean, Central America, and West Africa. Actually, what we are trying to do is to see what opportunities exist to use Sargassum seaweed in such a way to help the poorest community benefit from Sargassum. And the project the team consists of scientists from the University of Southampton and the University of Ghana, University of West Indies, and the University of York. And we have an inclusive advisory committee from the regions, the Caribbean, and then from West Africa. Now, the team in Southampton are made up of five scientists, and in Ghana we have 3 scientists and a student who is part of the team in Ghana. And then we also have 4 scientists from the Caribbean and then from the Barbados team. Now, the project is focusing on three main areas. The working of the project focused on three main areas: effective communication, co-development, and capacity building. So with effective communication, we're trying to communicate the underlying science and the economy of seaweed sources, flows, and accumulation to inform risk management and long-term sustainability of Sargassum. And under co-development, we're trying to co-develop locally appropriate monitoring, early warning, and risk management of existing Sargassum strandings through a participatory dialogue. So that is what we are trying to do. And then develop a potential transformation adaptation pathways that deliver opportunities for equitable resilience. Now, there are a wide range of skills that are available within the team or the consortium, and we will promote and use this to develop capacity where there is a lack of capacity in any of the participating countries. Now, we deliver the project principles through 4 objectives, which are mapped into 4 work packages. So the work package 1, which seeks to improve prediction of Sargassum events, and then the work package 2 to monitor and risk map Sargassum events. And by so doing, we're combining high spatial temporal satellite imageries. We're also using the drone technology, cloud computing infrastructure with local scale social economic data. While work package 3 is to assess long-term use and local demand for Sargassum products. And then the last work package, which is the work package 4, to explore regional Sargassum governance options and issues. Now, these work packages have some key outputs that we hope to achieve after the life span of the project. So work package 1 is to, one of the key outputs is a bespoke system to predict where and when Sargassum will beach on time scales from weeks to months, tested for target coastlines in Jamaica and Ghana, where poor communities stand to benefit most from this capacity building. Now, the key output for work package 2 are in 5 parts, and they are looking at operational and real-time monitoring system. Secondly, effective dissemination of system of Sargassum landing that will provide crucial information to the communities and agencies for developing strategies. And then the third one is effective communication on the size and location of past, current, and future landings. The fourth one is new risk management strategies developed by coastal archetype and nature of community. And then the fifth one is adaptation practices, guidelines for most common and most at-risk coastal archetypes, and the most frequently affected and the poorest community. So these are some of the key outputs that we expect work packages 1 and 2 to come out with. The work package 3 the key output will include training of researchers on agar analytical procedures through knowledge of agar biomass composition to implement a sustainable Sargassum biorefinery process. And there are other outputs that we expect the work package 3 to also come up with. Now, with regards to work package 4, the key output is engage stakeholders in the Caribbean islands, documented stakeholders' interest and influence over Sargassum stranding events, co-develop understanding of barriers to development of resilience through Sargassum use, and also come out with a regional demand for an interstate network of actors that can influence people's ability to adapt to Sargassum strandings. We also have web package cross activities, and we have 6 web package cross activities that we hope will help us achieve our objectives. And one is an engagement platform for the development of ideas and disseminating information across regions, and also identification of the atmospheric and oceanographic drivers of Sargassum events, and development of an operational monitoring system at local to regional scale, analysis of the biological composition of the Sargassum biomass and the implication of Sargassum reuse, a political economy analysis of issues associated with Sargassum reuse and management, recognizing that there are potentially conflicting access rights and multiple perspectives among regional stakeholders on how to address this. And then the last cross activities and input is improved risk management and adaptation best practices guidelines. There are several ways that interested people can engage with us. We are very happy to collaborate. We are very happy and open to engage. We have our normal, our yearly meetings, annual consortium meetings. People who are interested can participate in our meetings. We will publicize it, and those who are interested can participate. I'll also share my email address, so those who are interested can also contact me, and I'll be very happy to collaborate with colleagues in the sub-region in achieving the objectives of our project. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ado. With your presentation, we are ending the national case studies, and I will give the floor to Joanna for the next step in our program. Joanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jacques, and thank you to all the panelists also. So my name is Joanna Akrofi. I work with UNEP in Nairobi, and I am with the Science Division. So it's been a collaborative effort working through this series of webinars. Now, we're supposed to have a question and answer session, but time is fast spent, and I know that participants have all been encouraged to actually share their questions in the chat box. We have a few questions. Really, if I'm going through them, I'm seeing them more of comments, which is fine. However, I will encourage participants, if you have any questions, lingering on after this event, this event actually has been recorded. We will share the link with all the participants, and we'll also share the presentation. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them to the organizers, particularly my colleague Milka, who has handled this app ably. And then we will share these questions for them to be answered appropriately. However, here are some of the comments that were posted. Now, one of the questions is that, where can I find literature on the role the Amazon basin has in Sargassum occurrence? I believe that we started this series of webinars. We have had the first one, which was very general. Then the last one, the second one, we actually focused on the science. And so many of the scientists are online. The community of Sargassum experts are all here, and somebody will just drop, an answer to this question. There's also a second comment, which also is about the science. He says, please note that the Sargassum accumulations in the tropical / the near equatorial Atlantic area are not related to Mississippi, Congo, or Amazon River discharges. We keep promoting this erroneous idea. Please read this manuscript and please help address this misconception. Then he puts out a document actually, which has been authored by Jones, Elizabeth, Rick, Lumping. I think what will happen is we will just put this out. The title is The Establishment of a Pelagic Sargassum Population in the Tropical Atlantic, Biological Consequences of a Basin Scale Long Distance Dispersal Event, Progress in Oceanography. So we will put this out, when we are finalizing this the information about this event. Then there is another thing that is raised, that he says there is no evidence of Amazon influence other than several publications stating this with no evidence and everyone republishing this. That is Wang et al. 2019, where he gives one nutrient measurement in the Atlantic and erroneously attributes this to an increase in nutrient discharge. So we take note of that. Then the following comment is now talking about where you can get a lot of information. It says a good place to communicate with the global community is to join the SAGNet forum discussion. And so we will give this email address. We'll share it with all the participants so that those who are interested can join, because I think that our colleagues on the Caribbean side are very much familiar with SAGNet, the SAGNet forum. The next one is talking about proper sighting and movement timing can be properly determined and harvesting protocol should be developed. Then process of harnessing its potential can follow through nature-based research options. I think that some of the ideas on utilization of Sargassum have been put out in the science event. We heard a lot about using satellite and so on. And so let me move on to the last one. Now, the last one is also talking about, he said the question on the negative impact on the fisheries is covered. Damaged fishing nets and the positive effect as a temporary habitat for small fishes from the food net that in its term attracts bigger top of the food chain net carnivorous fishes remains to be evaluated in each region fisheries. So these are the few comments that were actually posted, out there. We're still looking at the science. It is still not certain what actually has brought about this, sudden influx of a lot of sargassum. And so it's one of the reasons why we want to talk, and we have organized these events. The UNESCO SCORE Harmful Algal Bloom committee, together with the GESEMP, the group of experts on the scientific aspects of marine protection, which is a network of independent scientists sponsored by 10 UN agencies, including UNEP and IOC UNESCO, actually have been planning to have an open science workshop. With the COVID-19 pandemic, it's become very tricky, and we don't know whether this can come on physically. Originally, it was to happen somewhere in November, and Mexico was going to host that workshop. That workshop holds a lot, will give an opportunity to actually look deeper into the science as is expected. However, we currently cannot say when that will happen. There might be an opportunity to have it online, or maybe later when COVID has been cleared to have a physical meeting. We are not too sure of that. And so I don't know if any of the panelists would like to, through by the few comments that I have shared, if any of the panelists would like to make a comment, I will give them just some 2 minutes to do that. Otherwise, we would, like to move on to the next session, because we actually are running out of time. We don't want to keep people on for too long. Anyone who wants to make a comment? Jacques, you want to say anything?
Hello, Madam Chona.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I take the floor? All right, thank you so much. So let me just briefly respond to 2 comments and questions from Mika. He was asking whether which form we were supposed, or we were wishing to export the sargassum. So from the recommendations from Algas Organic, so what we planned was to collect this sargassum, wash it and dry it before it's been packaged into the container exported. But then it's never materialized because the sargassum didn't come in 2017. So currently what we are doing is just cleaning. So we are not selling sargassum anyway currently in Freetown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who has, something else to say? Okay, otherwise I will hand over to my colleague Milka to take on the closing session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Joanna, and to all the panelists and to all the attendees. It's quite recommendable that even now we have about 172 with us. So we really thank you for staying with us and for listening in and for, watching over the presentation. Just to mention is that we'll be sharing all the presentation on our UNEP website. So we'll send an email with the link to where you can get all the presentation. As well, we have a recording for this webinar, so we'll be sharing. And further, in about 1 week or two, we'll as well share the summary of this webinar. So with that, I think we'll go straight on to the closing remarks. Allow me to welcome Abu Bamba from Abidjan Convention to make his closing remarks, followed by Mika Odido as well from IOC UNESCO. Abu, are you able to hear us?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you, Mika. First of all, I would like to extend our thanks to all the organizers, to all the presenters, for the quality of the conversation we've had this afternoon. I can notice that, we've made significant progress since 2011. Research has come up, with some good findings, that will help our fight against, Sargassum seaweeds. The other remarks or other points that I would like to highlight is about the future. People have not been concentrated only on the root causes, not the problem, because sometimes it's beyond our control. Some people say that it's coming, from the Sargasso Seas, it's coming from the other side of the Atlantic, but it's a reality. It's there every year, starting from March, April, June, July is there, and there's an infestation of our shores in West Africa. So scientists, University of Cape Coast, University of Accra, Legon, University of Abidjan, University of Abome Calavi, Nigeria, all those countries, they've been working on the value addition of what was considered once upon a time a pest, a problem, to turn it into a solution. So I was impressed by what the pharmaceutical School of Pharmacy, University of Abidjan, using that, for fertilizers, even boosting, the production, the primary production, vegetable production system process. So I think the not be like a conference or a webinar, and then we'll put the report and the presentations in the shelf. But we need to follow up. We need to make sure that operational research, like the ones that are happening in all the countries that presented, are shared among themselves and then are actually amplified, so that we can really make good of Sargassum for the well-being of the people, for the well-being of the population, in terms of job creation, in terms of food production, in terms of wealth creation and wealth distribution. So I will conclude, by extending against our deepest appreciation to all the organizers, UNESCO, IOC, GPA, UNEP, the Abidjan Convention, all the scientists, for the very, very, very comprehensive presentations. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Abu, for your remarks. That was well done. So I think we move on to Mika Odido for your closing remarks. Mika, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Milka, for this opportunity to also address this meeting. It has indeed been a pleasure to join the experts in the region and to listen to the very interesting presentations on the ongoing work on Sargassum in West Africa. I noticed that this work is covers a very wide range of topics, ecology and ecosystem impacts, cleanup technology and management systems, utilizations of Sargassum, and the socioeconomic impact. I also noticed several questions in the chat box asking about possible impact of heavy metals in the Sargassum. Indeed, the topic of Sargassum is an area where IOC has worked closely with the Cartagena Convention in the Caribbean, and we would like to explore possibility of working together with the Abidjan Convention in West Africa also. I see that some of the institutions are already having cross-Atlantic work, I mean, from the presentation made by Ghana. So far in Africa, IOC has not implemented much work on macroalgae. Our focus has been on microalgae, focusing especially on harmful algal blooms, developing their database, looking at the status of harmful algal blooms, looking at their taxonomy, looking at impact on aquaculture, developing guides for monitoring. And however, in the Caribbean, we've done much more work, like I said, with the Cartagena Convention. In particular, our regional sub-commission for the Caribbean organized a workshop on Sargassum and oil spill monitoring for the Caribbean in May 2018, which had two interesting recommendations. First, they recommended the design of a region-wide information and forecasting system for Sargassum and oil spills that would provide information on historical baseline impacts, document socioeconomic impacts, look at long-range and short-range forecasts, and look at volume and abundance of Sargassum. They also recommended the development of a guide on best management practices for Sargassum events in the coastal Caribbean. I believe these two recommendations are very relevant to our region. In addition, their discussions did look at research areas that they could also look at. This included the biology and ecology of Sargassum, hindcasting, in-situ measurements, drifting behavior, impact of land-based nutrient inputs, impact of climate and environmental variability, multivariate analysis, and biodiversity changes associated with Sargassum presence. Listening to the discussions today, I believe that these topics are also quite relevant to us. Which brings me to the next issue that I'd like to flag. Over the last couple of years, IOC has been developing an implementation plan for the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, which comes before the UN General Assembly in the next few weeks. The plan has identified 10 global challenges that are very relevant to us and to the work on the Sargassum. One of the issues that has come up is how to co-design solution-oriented research within the framework of the decade. In the next month, we'll be organizing several virtual meetings looking at how to co-design solution-oriented research within the framework of the decade, both at global and at regional levels. I think this is a topic in which we could work on together to co-design solution-oriented research. And this is something that we should think about. Can we work together as organizations and institutions from the region to look at how we can flag this as one of our flagship initiatives for the decade? I think with this, I would really like to once again thank the organizers, thank the Abidjan Convention, and thank the UNFGP and other partners that have been working together in implementing this program. And really ask that moving ahead, let's really work together and try and ensure that we are able to work on ways of assisting our member states in the region to address this important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mika. Colleagues, for your presentation, for your remarks. I think it's important that we note that the topic is growing on. And I think even looking on what are the impacts, and also as well looking on the sources of sargassum and what are the triggers, I think our focus is to prevent them from the point source and non-point source before they reach the marine environment. So I want to thank you all for your participation. Thank you so much. Please keep in tune for November 20th for the next webinar, which will be focusing on Caribbean. And just to note one key thing, that this is not just a national or regional, but it's growing to be a global, a problem. So we have to join body from wherever regions you are. Just feel that you are part of us, and it's growing from national, regional to global. So I want to thank you all, and good to see you. And thank you so much for tuning and staying with us until the end of it all. Maybe I'll request all the panelists to put their cameras on and to say bye to all the panelists as we end this webinar. It was good having you around. See you next time. Bye-bye. See you all.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, my friends.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks.